flooding crisis is unfolding in many southern Alberta communities tonight.
It appears the bridge is failing.
The media, and you guys in particular, have contributed greatly to the outflow of communication.
Trans-Canada Highway, both east and west of Canmore, both in very rough shape tonight.
You're going to be turned back or you're going to be detoured, so it's just best to stay at home.
Definitely don't travel today towards downtown core if you can.
If you want the latest information, we've got a link on our website.
Floodwater has damaged or destroyed thousands of homes, as we've been telling you.
And particularly on the bow, the worst is yet to come.
They're getting the word out as best they can because, folks, we need to be prepared for what's...
There are reports that there was a minor gas leak.
They're advising everyone not to come into the downtown.
The NMAX substation control room that NMAX wanted to have a look at, so we're just going to be hanging out here for a few minutes.
Fire crews continuing to go through this area.
Many longtime residents here in Black Diamond say they have never seen flooding quite like this.
Here in Cougar Creek.
Any flashlights or anything?
No, we just got some.
The homes will have to be completely rebuilt.
How bad it truly got down here.
We're about half a kilometer from the center of Bragg Creek. The call went out for volunteers, and this is the result.
It is a rare glimpse into backroom politics. Global News has obtained a recording of a meeting hosted by one of Calgary's most prominent home builders. It outlines a plan to control City Council in the next election. Doug Vason has more in this NewsHour exclusive.
There are some people that are on the City Council that are totally out of control.
This video of a meeting held last November shows Cal Wenzel, the founder of Shane Homes, outlining a plan to get council under control by the next election.
Let's start with Ward 1.
Speaking to a group apparently made up of 150 building professionals, Wenzel runs through a list of councillors he approves of and says he is supporting with campaign donations.
Keating we've looked after, Diane we've looked after, Peter them all.
Those he wants replaced.
Drew Farrell, Jesus, Jay didn't send anybody to do either.
And those he's unsure of.
At one time where Bookmans was kind of guided as to, maybe vote for us when it comes up, and then he forgot to ask any questions and forgot to vote the right way.
Wenzel says millions of dollars a year are at stake for developers.
So unless we get somebody in there that's really going to, be more on our side than the Guard side, we're talking another 4 years after next October.
And he doesn't think Naheed Nenshi, the most popular mayor in the country, can be defeated.
Dimitri asked me a question a little earlier on. Can anyone beat Nenshi? And I said, no, likely not.
Instead, the plan appears to be to fund developer-friendly candidates and defeat the mayor by outvoting him in council.
When I talked to Dave Ronconnier, Dave is sitting there saying, it doesn't matter if you got the mayor on your side or not. You need 8 votes. So as long as you have 8 votes, you can control whatever happens.
In addition to what he says, the former mayor told him, Wenzel also talks about a major donation to a right-wing think tank, founded by former federal opposition leader Preston Manning.
Keeping in mind, in order to bring Preston on board, 11 of us put up 100,000, so $1.1 million. So it's not like we haven't put up our money. And we're going to be there to put it up again, and we're also supporting the candidates.
The tape, released by a source Global News has agreed to protect, is prompting strong reactions.
I think it is the smoking gun. It's clear that there's an expectation from the developers that you will do our bidding, and there'll be no independent. We will tell you how to vote.
But to actually see this live, captured on tape in this way, I mean, look, it's very distasteful. And as viewers watch this, I think that they would agree that this is shadowy and weird and unpleasant.
Doug joins us now for some context on this. And Doug, why is Wenzel so upset?
Linda, it comes down to the cost of growth and who pays for what. On the video, Wenzel says things have changed and builders have to pay attention now. The city says it needs more sustainable growth and things can't continue as in the past.
Old way of doing things simply won't work any longer. We are reaching, if we haven't already, reached a fiscal cliff with the cost of growth.
I have no idea what this small group of extremely wealthy individuals is so mad about. Our housing starts are really healthy. They all admit that the industry is extremely profitable.
Nenshi is also calling for an investigation into possible wrongdoing based on what he's seen in the video. Tomorrow we'll explain why and bring reaction from those Cal Wenzel names during what was recorded of the meeting. Linda?
Thanks, Doug.
You're welcome.
They are concealed, hidden away from the world, kept captive, forced to satisfy strangers. It's a place where innocence is traded for profit. Young women and men bought and sold for sex.
Like, the one thing when you do this job, you can't lose sight of who you are. You're a different person when you walk in the room. If you forget to do that, you get lost and you don't even know who you are anymore.
An industry based on deception, manipulation, coercion. It's a dirty secret. But the flesh trade is finding a home in this country.
Natalie, I just got into town and I'm looking for some company.
Human trafficking is a very real and very uncomfortable truth in our city.
I don't know anything more dangerous than what we're doing here.
The undercover detective and his vice partner spend night after night recruiting girls to hotel rooms.
Hi Dahlia, how are you?
I'm good, you?
Good, you busy tonight?
The intent isn't to arrest them, but to protect them.
It's like showing them that there are other doors that they can open outside of the hotel rooms.
And sometimes that means reminding them what's at risk.
So heaven forbid anything ever happened to you, who would we notify?
There's no sugarcoating it, there's no glamorizing it. You have a victim and an individual that cares nothing about this person other than the fact that at the end of the day, you need to bring me money.
They rarely earn enough to buy their own freedom. Instead, they face violent repercussions.
When it happens, you panic. And then you think about it. And then it's just the next call.
And that's the sad proof. Constantly in demand, she is the commodity. Traffickers have the kind of greed that cannot be satisfied. They earn on average $280,000 for each victim under their control.
You can't leave and you can't stop if you wanted to. There's a deadline. You know what I mean? It's like 50 G's, then another 50 more.
We got Jenna, 24, Sasha, open-minded.
The exploitation has gone even deeper underground, making these traffickers hard to catch. The business is mostly online.
New to the business, new to the city, 19 years of age, red flag.
Images clog the internet. Streams of ads drive authorities to search for underage girls, those being held against their will. Some as young as 12.
Two of the girls staying at two different hotels. It's a 24/7 operation. These girls also had someone in the background. If you're tired, I don't care.
Calgary police intervened and rescued those women, taking them to a safe house.
The majority of them are broken. They're done. Some of them don't want to live anymore. Some of them have been badly beaten.
Once they're ready to escape, they need a place to run to.
It's hard when somebody phones me and pleads, I need to come in, I need a bed, I need somewhere safe. I can't do this anymore. I can't be with another 6 guys tonight. I can't do it. And if I don't have a bed, I don't know where. It's really hard.
Those in the business of giving them a sanctuary say it's about time society takes the blinders off.
There is a brilliant opportunity for all of us now to start educating people across Canada about this issue in particular.
But there's no true scope of how big this issue is. Researchers say it's almost impossible to quantify because few ever come forward.
Whatever will that they had was stripped from them, and they had no reserves to fight. Their basic essence was one of survival.
And that is something that cannot be ignored.
This is going to be a big weekend for one of the most talented dogs in Alberta. She's kicking off another summer of showing off her impressive skills. As Gail Tucker shows us, she's a hit with the crowds wherever she rolls in.
She's gulping down a lot of it. And you would be too.
you were whipping around as much as she does, it's how she rolls.
Is Buttercup, Canada's skateboarding bulldog.
Passing through Calgary from their home in Edmonton, Paul King just loves showing her off.
That is so cool.
You can see stuff like this on the internet, but seeing it in person is just something else.
There's like a dozen skateboarding dogs in the States. She's the only one in Canada. You know, it's amazing what she does, but the truly amazing thing is she's self-taught. 8 months old, we gave her a skateboard to play with. She started by chewing the back of it. It'd roll away, so she put 2 paws on it, and then before we knew it, she jumped on and started riding. We're on our way to Banff. There's a bicycle race in Banff, and they've got the avenue closed down, and we're skateboarding down the avenue for all the tourists. They'll snap pictures of her, and they go crazy, because where else are you going to see something like this?
Just the first of many summer appearances for Buttercup.
She has an agent.
They had to turn down a movie offer in Nova Scotia because Paul's busy with his job, but she's a star wherever she rolls.
She's taken part in parades.
5 years old now, it's a pretty good life.
She does the normal dog things, you know, like the fetch, but as soon as you pull out a board, like, she's obsessed. I have to force her to stop. Like, she will keep going until she drops. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3, go! We've gone through several boards. That's obsession. You can train dogs to do a lot of things, but when you find a dog that has a true talent that wants to do, go on, man, that wants to do this, then you know it's a talent.
Gil Tucker, Global News.
That is so awesome. And Buttercup will be rolling around Banff tomorrow and Sunday, downtown Banff. And if you want to check out more of her moves, you can check out our Facebook page or website. An unlikely group of Canadians has pulled together to make change in a faraway corner of the world. In part 1 of the Africa Project, Global's Jamie Dahl has a story about a lesson on hope and forgiveness from Canada to Sierra Leone.
A long and rutted dirt road cuts through the northern jungles of Sierra Leone. At the very end of it sits the small and remote village of Mamudia. Despite its isolation, education is paramount here.
Looking at it as a priority.
The first school was built in 1992. Through awareness and encouragement from NGOs, attendance has increased dramatically. But now there's not enough room for all the students.
The suicide in the class.
But that problem will soon be in the past. Construction has just finished on this brand new building. And it was all made possible thanks to an unlikely group of teenagers in Canada.
Because usually we sit around and talk about crime and stuff, and like with this project, we're talking about how we can help other people.
This 17-year-old Calgarian says she's been sent to jail up to 40 times. Raising money to build a school in Africa while serving time, the last thing on her mind. Until her social studies teacher started talking about places like Sierra Leone and its bloody civil war that only ended 11 years ago.
When I think about what they went through, it makes me kind of be ashamed of myself for thinking I have a bad life when people have it way worse out there. Like, I have health care, I have an education, and those kids don't even get it.
Through bake sales and selling artwork, a group of young offenders helped raise $20,000 for the new building. The people of Mamudia have been told where the cash is coming from.
They did not judge them. They felt so much sympathy for them, you know, and they started asking, if Sierra Leoneans too can do what these guys have done, I think our country will move forward.
In a country that has reintegrated thousands of child soldiers into post-war civil society, forgiveness has been a key element to achieving peace. A faraway lesson hitting close to home for this 17-year-old now trying to turn her life around.
I want to graduate, and I want to stop going to jail and be happy.
She and her peers are proof you can make a difference, even behind bars. This time they've touched lives for the good. In Mamudia, Sierra Leone, Jamie Dahl, Global News.
The teacher who first proposed the idea to her students, along with others from the Correctional Center, are currently in Sierra Leone to see the new building for themselves.
Great performance as well on the ice today from another talented young female athlete.
It's the latest in a series of triumphs for her this year. As Gail Tucker shows us, she's an amazing inspiration for her classmates and anyone else lucky enough to see her in action.
Hitting the ice in Canmore, some pretty pumped players.
Oh yeah, let's go, boy!
The high school team from Banff bussing over to take on the hometown heroes.
Let's go, Canmore!
Arch rivals going into battle in the 5th annual Banmore Cup game.
A lot of energy in the building, like the stands are packed. It'll be really fun.
Also a fun day for this young athlete. 18-year-old Meg Osada warming up for her turn on the ice.
Very excited.
Meg and her mum Noriko just back from something really exciting. Representing Canada at the Special Olympics Winter Games in South Korea.
She skated beautifully, so confident. I'm so proud. Ta-da!
Meg coming home to Canmore with double silver.
Medals for Canada.
And now a chance to set the stage for her classmates' big game.
That's special, very special, right?
She's super humble about how much she accomplishes.
Are you ready? Yeah. Okay. Fuck. Okay.
And everyone's just so proud of her.
Gonna try hard? Okay.
Something Meg's been working hard at since she first hit the ice 10 years ago.
And that was a, wow, this is where Meg should be.
The family never letting Meg's Down syndrome get in the way.
She just enjoyed skating.
Just amazing to see how she performs on the ice.
She has a very limited communication skills, but she can beautifully express herself on the ice. So that's what we appreciate as a family. We can see she's happy.
Gil Tucker, Global News.
Meg's now training for her next Special Olympics event. All week we've been bringing you a rare inside look at the Navy SEALs boot camp. It is an incredible endurance test that our own Jordan Witzel undertook to raise money for the Poppy Fund.
So how did he do? Here's his final report.
Down, forward, down, five.
Saturday morning.
Move it fast, move it fast.
Almost there with just 24 hours of non-stop physical work in front of us. Several weekend warriors joined us for the final part of the challenge.
Last leader, knock him out. Ready?
Ready. The day included a condensed version of everything we had endured through the entire week, along with some physical testing for maximum push-ups, pull-ups, sit-ups, and a 1.5-mile run. We also spent 3 hours in the pool for team swim races and some drown proofing. On any given day, just 3 hours of swimming would be exhausting. Today, this was just a small portion of what we would endure, going on just 12 hours sleep all week. The dominating thought at this point is that it had to end sometime soon. And it did, early on Sunday morning after several hours of overnight surf torture. Complete exhaustion met with relief.
Yes, that's good. Got sand everything. Did you just go to sleep just have been locked up.
And an honorable mention.
We had a hard time beating this guy up because you and your swim buddy were stellar. You know, really put out the whole time. Does anybody here want to argue with that? I mean, this guy did an awesome job. You, I could probably beat for another 2 or 3 weeks and you'd still just be standing there laughing, whatever, dude, I don't care. So yeah, he's a weatherman, but man, he'd make a great special operator. He's definitely got the heart for it.
And because of their contributions to my efforts, allowing me to attend boot camp for free, the instructors were given white hats, courtesy of Smith Built Hats.
Incredible job, well done. Way to go, George. He didn't just make it through boot camp. Of course, he raised money for the Poppy Fund, this side of $60,000.
Yeah, that's just amazing. I hope he got a good sleep.
Yeah, I think he's taking some time.
Yeah.
Unprecedented flooding and devastation is spreading across southern Alberta at this hour. Good evening and welcome to viewers across the Global Alberta Network to our special live state of emergency coverage. Rescues and acts of heroism are being performed in our communities right now, and at least one person is missing tonight. Hours of relentless rain causing severe flooding and disaster situations from corner to corner, including here in Calgary and across the southern part of the province. Thousands of people have been evacuated from homes, schools and hospitals, seniors' homes. Bridges are collapsed and roads are washed out. Currently, states of emergency have been declared in several areas. We will continue to bring you up to date on these. Right now, it's High River, Turner Valley, Black Diamond, Okotoks, Canmore, Crow's Nest Pass, the City of Calgary, and Lethbridge and Sundre. Our newscast will be completely focused on this critical situation tonight. And we begin in Calgary, where an area that has been devastated by flooding before is under an even more serious threat tonight. Global's Gord Gillies is live along Elbow Drive, where thousands of residents in several communities have been ordered to evacuate. And Gord, you heard from emergency officials just a short time ago.
Yes, Linda, it's unbelievable, really. We'll get to the video you saw a moment ago because the sun has come out. This is the relative calm before the storm, if you will, in Calgary. Over my shoulder, as you can see, it's very busy. They're building a berm like they did in 2005 to try and protect a number of communities here. Unprecedented that they've been evacuated. The mandatory evacuation notice going out in 6 of them, in fact, along Elbow Drive here. You've got your Elbow Park, your Stanley Park, the usuals that we've seen before over the days, and that will also include areas like Stanley Park, Roxborough, Mission, Rideau, and then of course farther west we've got Discovery Ridge as well. This, as I say, the calm before the storm, because they do expect the trouble to begin overnight and through the night and into Friday. Bruce Burrell from the Emergency Services Group talking about what's on the way.
We're looking at flood projection for the Elbow River that is likely going to be at least double of the impact that we saw in 2005. Get your medications, get your pet, get your valuables, and be prepared to leave. And when you're ready to leave, we're not asking for you to wait for somebody to knock at the door. When you are ready to leave, if you have someplace to go, please go.
They're recommending 72 hours if you could. We've seen families streaming by here, packed up as much as they could, heading on out. Again, though, this is the calm before the storm. The Calgary Zoo, in fact, though, under an evacuation order as well, and this presents some interesting problems perhaps down the road. The zoo, St. George's Island, a low-lying area. We'll have more on that coming up in a few moments as well. In the meantime, Linda, we'll set the scene here a little more of what Calgarians are going to have to face coming, perhaps. But boy, it's been a terrible day across the province already.
It certainly has. We'll talk to you in just a few minutes, Gord. And now we want to go to one of the hardest hit regions across southern Alberta. Jill Croteau is in High River, where a major portion of the town is underwater. Jill, the Army has been brought in to help there.
Yeah, that's right, Linda. The military from Edmonton has been called in. They've called in reinforcements from neighboring towns and villages, all in an effort to get all hands on deck to help the folks here in High River. The Highwood River actually burst its banks earlier this morning. Authorities say it really happened without any warning at all. A lot of the folks here are just in shock and disbelief. It's almost as if they were filling the sandbags in vain. Just when they were trying to get them to the front door, they had to drop them and leave. Some residents didn't get out in time. Many are still stranded at this hour. The streets right in front of their homes have literally turned into rivers. They've had to use, believe it or not, combines to rescue people out of a stranded shopping mall. They've had to use choppers to pluck people to higher ground. They've also had to use bulldozers carrying people away, marine boats, really anything at all that they can get to get these people to safety. It is still a very desperate situation.
Good evening and welcome to all of our global viewers across Alberta tonight. We begin with our very special broadcast, State of Emergency, Alberta Floods 2013.
A disaster of historic proportions is unfolding right across southern Alberta. The flooding and damage is unprecedented. This amazing video from YouTube of a highway in the Crow's Nest Pass area in the Bragg Creek area, a Quonset washing away in raging waters. There's absolute devastation for many communities. Heavy rain causing flooding that has led to mass evacuations in and around Calgary. Things are getting worse. There are states of emergency and road closures in more than a dozen communities in southern Alberta. We have reports from Bragg Creek, Black Diamond, Turner Valley, and Longview. Gord Gillies is live along the banks of the Elbow River.
And Gord, thousands of people who live in several affected communities can't go home tonight.
Well, Linda and Scott, at 5 o'clock, there were 6 communities impacted. We've added to that list. And let me get to the numbers right away so we can tell everybody that the mandatory evacuation now includes Discovery Ridge, of course, to the west of Calgary, Mission, Rideau, Stanley Park, Elbow Park, Roxborough, and then within the last half hour added to that, Cliff Bungalow, Earlton, and Victoria Park. This is ground zero for the calm before the storm, if you will, because they're building a berm again like they did in 2005 right behind me here on Elbow Drive. It's a steady stream of trucks coming in, dumping a load of soil, and then they're building the berm. Right now, that's about 50 loads worth. There are 36 trucks in Calgary being used, and I just talked to some of the officials here who say we'll probably be calling in more trucks, learning about berm building tonight. What they're doing here is laying down some plastic, as you can see on the road, and as that berm moves through, they'll cover it with plastic, cover that, so if the rains do come, and we expect them to come soon, they will, in fact, protect that. They won't fall apart once they get the berm going.
Well, this is absolutely unprecedented here in Canmore. What I'm standing in front of right now is Cougar Creek, which looks like a raging river. During the summer, there's not even water here sometimes. It's just a faint trickle, but it is alive tonight, and it is wreaking havoc on this town. There are plenty of homes that have severe damage. Others are at risk of being damaged, and many homeowners, all they can do is just sit on the sidelines here and watch and wait and hope.
History of the darkest kind being made in Calgary tonight, and what's happening here is capturing the attention of millions. Good evening and welcome to our viewers across the global Alberta network tonight. Here is what's happening right now. "100,000 Calgarians are being forced out of their homes. The same fate that's happening to so many more in places like High River and Canmore. Tonight there is chaos from the Crow's Nest Pass up through Lethbridge, across Calgary and far into the mountains. Rivers everywhere are on the rise. People are on the run and the crisis continues to worsen. Almost 20 Calgary communities are being emptied and more than a dozen other towns and cities are under states of emergency. We have this crisis covered from every corner, and Reed Feist begins it all on the edge of the Elbow River in Mission. Reed, this is an unprecedented situation.
I've never seen anything like it, Dallas. You can see the progress crews have been making on this massive berm. If you were watching our news earlier tonight, they were well down the street. They have brought in dozens of truckloads. This will attempt to protect the Elbow River from Mission and all of these communities here on the south end of the downtown core. You can hear behind me, those crews are working overtime trying to get this done. The Elbow expected to surge overnight. The Bow surging as we speak. Communities being evacuated. Downtown will be evacuated in the next couple of hours. And the worst, officials say, is yet to come.
It's a bit scary, but hopefully everyone gets out safe.
Evacuating tens of thousands of Calgarians.
Just the police came by, said to evacuate by 8 because I guess the river's going to get worse.
I have a condo that I'm moving into, so I'm fortunate. So I've just been emptying my storage and hauling it over.
As they flee, not sure when they'll return, city workers desperately race against the rain, trying to save the homes with massive berms on the south end near the Elbow and the north end along the Bow. The water rising so high, Memorial Drive is covered with water. Residents have never seen anything like it.
In 26 years, no, I haven't. It's quite amazing, actually.
The Bow River is just meters from the bottom of the Peace Bridge. It is shut down to all pedestrian traffic. Usually this is just a trickle of water that runs between the park and the core, but you can see it has spilled its banks. The water overflowing on Princess Island Park. It has been completely shut off to the public.
Evacuate the area immediately.
Mandatory evacuations are in place around the city. The rising waters coming very close to bridges, many of them now closed. The level so high, scaffolding collapsing on the St. Patrick's Island Bridge. But so far, no bridges have been damaged, no injuries have been reported. Officials hoping Calgarians heed the warnings and get out while they can.
And officials say that they will be cutting the power and gas to those communities that have had those mandatory evacuations. So if you do live in them, you have to get out or you might be in the dark. Let's recap those rivers quite quickly. The Elbow River expected to surge overnight. That will be all affected by how much water comes in to the Glenmore Reservoir, perhaps if it spills over, or how much the city will have to let out. The prime time we're hearing right now is between 3 and 5 a.m. The Bow will continue to rise, especially into the early morning hours. As a result, the city is now evacuating part of the downtown core from the Bow River south to 6th Avenue. There are many office towers that likely will not be working tomorrow. The city asking if you do not have to go to work tomorrow, don't. Calgary Transit also saying that service will be impacted. No one really knows what's going to happen, but crews here on this edge of the downtown and on the others preparing for the worst, and we'll continue to watch it for you throughout NewsHour Final. Dallas?
Reed, we'll check in with you in a few minutes. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Again, the Bow River also incredibly high, dangerous and fast. It's forced the city to evacuate communities along the banks from Bowness to Inglewood. There have been some scenes of high drama, some scares as well. Tony Ty has the latest from the Northwest.
Okay. You guys want the right? We'll take the left.
There was a sense of urgency as police officers fanned out in Bowness running. Water was already filling the streets as they went door to door to give the evacuation orders.
This is the Calgary Police. Evacuate your homes now. The water will continue to rise.
With water from the Bow River running through backyards, it's time to go.
I brought all the important stuff up the basement.
Yeah. Good luck.
Gotta go, man.
Homeowners have little time to gather a few personal items or pack their vehicles and leave.
Leave your homes immediately.
Just waiting for my dad's wife to pick us up and take it from there. We don't know.
A little while later, the scene is repeated in Sunnyside, further down the river. Water flowing down the streets and filling intersections convinced many it's time to go.
Have you got somewhere to go, or?
Yeah, my sister lives in the north, so.
Residents of this apartment were told to leave as water flowed into the underground units.
As I came in, literally I could see the water inching in.
And across the street, Rose Simard Bashan caught the flood in time and moved everything off the floor.
An hour difference would have been a huge, everything would have been completely soaked.
For people not home, even friends stop by to help.
She's on the road, but she's coming back in a couple hours.
Right. So now what do you have to do?
I got to go into her basement and get her belongings.
Sunnyside is being evacuated.
As night fell, police make one last tour of the neighborhood and volunteers go door to door, making sure everyone is leaving. With such short notice, it's all they can pack in a suitcase. Tony Ty, Global News.
The damage is unbelievable. The chaos hard to comprehend. And tonight, the rising rivers that are causing such misery have yet to crest. The historic flooding is swamping this city and southern Alberta, and it now appears to have claimed as many as 4 lives. Entire neighborhoods and towns have been swallowed up by the rising waters. Tens of thousands are out of their homes in Calgary alone. So much is underwater, including much of downtown, where the evacuation zone is growing. Good evening and welcome to our viewers across the Global Alberta Network tonight. That news coming in from our CMP in High River late this afternoon.
News that, in fact, there's been a deadly turn to the situation. The city has been devastated there, of course, by the flooding, and 4 people are missing and presumed drowned. 2 lifeless men were seen in the Highwood River earlier today. Their bodies have not been recovered. Our CMP also saying a woman who was swept away with her camper last night still missing. And it's not clear whether a man who was seen falling out of a canoe in the High River area was able to climb back in.
Prime Minister Stephen Harper flying in from Ottawa late this afternoon because of the flooding situation. He will tour the hardest hit areas along with Premier Alison Redford. Redford says Harper has already promised Alberta will have Ottawa's full support for rescue and recovery efforts. Stephen Harper is heading towards the Emergency Operation Centre. He is expected to speak somewhere in the city shortly, and we will bring you that when it's available.
There's the Prime Minister, the Mayor and the Premier getting set to do the tour. Here is where the Mayor works. That's out front of City Hall, McLeod Trail, folks. Yes, that much rain. Misery here. Tim Lee getting this afternoon. The streets completely submerged in water. McLeod Trail and about 12th Avenue Southeast now to see. To this portion of the City Hall we saw already flooding throughout the downtown. Some drivers having no choice but to leave their vehicles behind. And look what's been dragged into the city. All that mess, the trees, the chunks of wood, it's absolutely unbelievable.
So many waterways still having everybody on alert. And here's some footage of the Bow. That remains a threat to many people. It is already overflowing its banks into several Calgary communities. You're being advised to stay clear, stay away from the downtown core. The water is moving fast, lots of debris in there, and the downtown is being totally evacuated. The Elbow is still on the rise as well. We've been talking to Tony Ty, and in his area it's maintaining its banks at the level that it was at, but it has already caused mass devastation. Many southwest neighborhoods literally swallowed up. Homes and vehicles, parks and businesses flooded, and the danger is far from over.
Tony has been bringing us up to date on the situation in the Rideau Park, Roxborough area. Pick it up now, Tony, on what you're seeing there this afternoon.
Well, I think we're seeing an awful lot more people come down here since the rain stopped. The sun is actually out. If you can say that boosts your spirits in this kind of a situation, I guess we'll give it to you. But nothing has really changed in terms of water levels. Our fire hydrant over there is still at the exact same level it's been for all afternoon. So the levels have stabilized, but that's all we can say. They certainly haven't gone down at all. And people have been coming down all day, just sharing their stories with us about how they were evacuated, when it all happened. We had an interesting conversation with someone who said that the actual rivers didn't start flowing through this area until well after 3 o'clock in the morning. And in fact, the water came in from both sides of where we're standing, east and west, which is unlike 2005 when they only flooded the kind of east end of Roxborough and not so much the Rideau Park area. You're looking down 4th Street right now, all those cars in the street. The evacuation notice was given in plenty of time, but some people just didn't take it seriously enough, and when the water started rising, they didn't have time to move their cars. So that's what we're being told. So at this particular time, we're seeing a lot more people, like dozens, coming down here to take a look for themselves and get a good sense of this once-in-a-lifetime experience that is happening to their neighborhoods.
The evacuation misery in High River will continue for at least a few more days, and that is tough news for residents desperate to get back to their homes.
Close to 15,000 people in that area have been out for nearly a week. And as Joe Croteau reports, their tension, anxiety, and anger is boiling over.
Tucked away on the side of the highway, a little community is growing, calling this piece of pavement their home.
Our town is gone.
High River residents who have lost everything have been living in this parking lot since being forced out 7 days ago. The gravity of what's lost is clear.
My grandma's Bible. Can't bring that back. But the memories are here. The love is still here. That's all we can think of.
But bursts of generosity stream in, donations from strangers.
Sorry.
Even though it doesn't take away the pain inside of you, it makes you feel good for a few minutes.
It just about makes you want to cry sometimes.
Those who give say it's the least they can do.
It's good.
Thank you very much.
Sorry.
But all of their emotions are fueled by the feeling of being abandoned by their town officials.
It's more than a flood, it's a disaster. It's that simple. There hasn't been good leadership, and I think he just committed political suicide.
And that's bringing them to the breaking point.
You're not in charge anymore.
Disaster service.
Hey, you're not in charge anymore. Where the hell's disaster services? Oh, I got another press conference. What the hell's the sense of going to one when you can't finish this one?
October's just around the corner.
The biggest question I hear from residents is when, and that's been the most difficult question for us on ground zero here to be able to provide that.
We're now able to get a little closer to that answer. We're talking days, we're not talking weeks.
Officials are making no apologies for their reasons to keep the people on the outside.
We rely on the information from the RCMP and our firefighters and emergency responders. And when they say it's safe to go, we'll roll people in as we can, but we've got to make sure it's safe. And doing anything else would be completely irresponsible.
In High River, Jill Croteau, Global News.
A flooding crisis is unfolding in many southern Alberta communities tonight. Thousands in Calgary are under mandatory evacuation orders. Parts of Okotoks are underwater. The Army has been called into High River. Most residents in that town have been told to leave. Roads in Bragg Creek are being chewed away by the river. Much more on the emergency and what the weather will bring us next. Ahead. Good evening and welcome to all of our global viewers across Alberta tonight. We begin with our very special broadcast, State of Emergency, Alberta Floods 2013.
A disaster of historic proportions is unfolding right across southern Alberta. The flooding and damage is unprecedented. This amazing video from YouTube of a highway in the Crow's Nest Pass area in the Bragg Creek area, a Quonset washing away in raging waters. There's absolute devastation for many communities. Heavy rain causing flooding that has led to mass evacuations in and around Calgary. Rivers are running high, roads are washing out, and many bridges are in danger of collapsing. There have been many dramatic rescues throughout the day, among them a helicopter flying someone here you see right now to safety. This happening in High River.
Well, we have reporters in all of the areas under siege tonight. Jill Croteau is in one of the hardest hit regions. That is the town of High River. Our Gord Gillies is in the southwest here in Calgary near the Elbow. And to the west of us is Global's Jamie Dahl in Canmore.
And things are getting worse. There are states of emergency and road closures in more than a dozen communities in southern Alberta. We have reports from Bragg Creek, Black Diamond, Turner Valley, and Longview. Gord Gillies is live along the banks of the Elbow River.
And Gord, thousands of people who live in several affected communities can't go home tonight.
Well, Linda and Scott, at 5 o'clock, there were 6 communities impacted. We've added to that list. And let me get to the numbers right away so we can tell everybody that the mandatory evacuation now includes Discovery Ridge, of course, to the west of Calgary, Mission, Rideau, Stanley Park, Elbow Park, Roxborough, and then within the last half hour added to that, Cliff Bungalow, Earlton, and Victoria Park. This is ground zero for the calm before the storm, if you will, because they're building a berm again like they did in 2005 right behind me here on Elbow Drive. It's a steady stream of trucks coming in, dumping a load of soil, and then they're building the berm. Right now, that's about 50 loads worth. There are 36 trucks in Calgary being used, and I just talked to some of the officials here who say we'll probably be calling in more trucks, learning about berm building tonight. What they're doing here is laying down some plastic, as you can see on the road, and as that berm moves through, they'll cover it with plastic, cover that, so if the rains do come, and we expect them to come soon, they will, in fact, protect that. They won't fall apart once they get the berm going. Police in this parking lot beside me at Safeway. 15 minutes ago, there was about 30 cops on cycles. They are now fanning out to the different communities I mentioned, telling people that they need to get out. So, Bindu Suri spent some time today talking with some of the folks impacted by this emergency situation.
It's deja vu for Janessa Torgerson. Her house has flooded before, but this time the threat is much greater.
I don't actually know where to start. I mean, like I said, I'm on the basement floor, so I have everything down there. It's like my little home, so I don't know how high the water is supposed to go, so I'm just planning on taking everything with me.
She has no choice. The city of Calgary says evacuations are mandatory for several communities.
Please identify yourselves to emergency responders going door to door.
Residents will not be allowed to return to those communities after 3 p.m.
We're looking at flood projection for the Elbow River that is likely going to be at least double of the impact that we saw in 2005.
Elbow Drive has been shut down at 4th Street Southwest. A berm is being built to keep the rising water at bay.
If this water comes higher than 05, those people down there and the Rideau Roxbury people are in trouble again.
This is the first time since then a local state of emergency has been called for the city of Calgary. City officials say they're preparing for the worst.
We're doing this as a preventative measure, recognizing that things are going to be insured and can be replaced, but your pets and your people, you can't be replaced.
Get your medications, get your pet, get your valuables, and be prepared to leave. And when you're ready to leave, we're not asking for you to wait for somebody to knock at the door. When you are ready to leave, if you have some place to go, please go.
Even Mayor Naheed Nenshi is offering advice from Toronto.
Stay away from the riverbanks, stay safe. If we need assistance with volunteers and sandbagging and berming, we will let that information be known. But for now, stay as safe as possible.
Despite the city's efforts, some are disappointed, especially those who were promised it would be different the next time.
There's nothing I can do. The basement's going to flood and I'll have to rebuild. I just don't know how much water I'm going to get this time.
Bindu Suri, Global News.
I just learned this afternoon, you can see over my shoulder behind me, there's also apartment complexes and condos. They also are under the evacuation alert, so they too have to get out of their places. Police telling me that just a few moments ago. So down here, they're preparing. And are they ever scrambling as well a little farther down from us at the Calgary Zoo? We know St. George's Island is an island, and the water there is running hard and fast. Zoo officials and city officials and everybody there doing what they can to prepare for what's already arriving and what's also on the way tonight. So we are here where they're preparing. I'm standing in the sunshine, it's hot. The contrast is absolutely bizarre, but the situation is severe and it's real. We'll have an update for you again on what they're doing a little later in the show.
Thanks, Gord. We'll see you shortly. Well, it is really an alarming situation in High River tonight, where most of the town is under a mandatory evacuation.
The rushing waters of the Highwood River flooding pretty much everything low-lying. Jill Croteau joining us now live. Jill, it sounds like things are so bad the Army has actually been called in.
Yeah, that's right, Scott. The military reinforcements have been called in. Authorities from neighboring towns and villages have also been dispatched here, all in a desperate attempt to get these 13,000 residents to higher ground to safety. You mentioned it off the top. All of the town is under a mandatory evacuation order. Everybody is trying to scramble to safety. There are some folks who are still at this hour stranded simply because the Highwood River burst so fast and so soon that they really didn't have enough warning to get out in time. They've been using combines to pluck people to safety, helicopters. People are being carried away in the buckets of bulldozers. They are trying to basically just get them somewhere safe. This has been going on all day. The water has been just flowing. The streets have literally been turned into rivers. Sandbags were being filled at one point, but it seemed almost as if it was in vain, because as soon as they could get them to the front doors, they just had to drop them and go. Where were you guys rescued from?
The co-op.
What was happening there?
It's totally surrounded by water. The only way we could get out was from the combine.
It just started going full tilt and it started coming over the window well, so I just grabbed my laptop, got in the truck, moved to higher ground, but higher ground's starting to become low ground.
There's many houses like that. I don't know what they're doing.
We were going to take our cars and get out, and by the time I packed a bag, it was going full blast. We couldn't get the cars out, so they're just sitting there.
So because the entire town has been evacuated, the emergency evacuation center has been moved to Heritage Point. The Highwood River is expected to crest around midnight. The situation's still very grave here, and it is expected to get worse.
Thanks so much for the update, Jill.
Well, we are keeping a close eye on things, and another weather system is threatening to bring more rain. Paul Dunphy joins us with more on that. Paul?
Yes, it's continuing to rain heavily to the west of us, and a rainfall warning remains in effect to the west. It's been dropped for the city of Calgary. We're not expecting as much rain here, but as you can see in the Doppler radar, there's still lots of rain in the foothills and the mountains to the west of city of Calgary. And we do have some systems that are going to wrap through into the city of Calgary tonight and tomorrow as well. Wherever you see the brown, the orange, the red, the yellows, that's where we have the heaviest rain and possibly thunderstorm cells as well. Green is pretty much just rain. The city of Calgary had a system go through about a half an hour ago, and as I said, we expect we'll see more of this through the night and through the day tomorrow. As I said earlier, we are no longer under a rainfall warning in the city of Calgary, but it remains in effect to the west, and that's the real problem. Temperatures are going to remain below seasonal as well. Our high tomorrow only about 14. More coming up, and I'll tell you how much rain we expect across the area in a bit.
Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome. Well, we've received some unbelievable images, photos from viewers today. This one coming in earlier tonight from Chris. Main Street, Turner Valley, underwater tonight. Devastating for residents and business owners there.
And in that community impacted by flooding, there's been a crisis of a different kind. A leak of potentially deadly sour gas in Turner Valley caused evacuations and forced other residents to stay indoors. Our David Boucher has more on that emergency and the severe flooding in that area, beginning with Black Diamond.
Many longtime residents here in Black Diamond say they have never seen flooding quite like this. The problem is the Sheep River. This is what many Black Diamond residents woke up to. The Sheep River breached its banks, flooding the main road in town and low-lying communities. Several businesses and about 40 homes were swamped. The town brought in heavy equipment in an attempt to divert the river. It also activated its emergency management plan to assist people displaced by the floodwaters. The oil field arena was quickly turned into an emergency reception center.
We receive them here, provide them with blankets, provide them with towels, food, and if there's a need arises that we have to break out cots, we'll break out cots and turn it into a hotel for the night or the 2 days or whatever's required.
Turner Valley, just down the road from Black Diamond, declared an emergency due to flooding and high water. Longtime residents say they've never seen it this bad.
I have nothing to compare it to because it's never happened before.
A bigger worry in Turner Valley, however, was a sour gas pipeline that ruptured, releasing deadly hydrogen sulfide gas. An emergency alert was issued and a large portion of the town was evacuated.
It was a line that was not in use. That's what I found out. H2S is nasty stuff. Real nasty.
A town official says the pipeline, owned by Legacy Oil and Gas, ruptured after being struck by debris being carried down the raging river. Crews responded quickly and managed to contain the leak. Some homeowners were advised to stay indoors. In Longview, Stars Air Ambulance responded to reports of 2 adults being stranded on the Highwood River. A woman who was last seen standing on a trailer has not been located. However, a man was found on a flatbed in the river. He was rescued by a second helicopter involved in the search. And 4 horses trapped by the rising river were rescued by their owner.
I had to come down and show them where the higher ground was. The water wouldn't have been much higher. It would have been a mess. It's pretty touchy right now.
There's no word yet on when residents will be allowed back into their homes. That very much depends on the weather and the river.
Thanks, David.
We'll take a look at these images from our Global One News helicopter over Okotoks, the Sheep River running high, fast, and dangerous. The town has declared a state of emergency and evacuations are underway. Several streets are sealed off and there is already flooding. Many areas are under mandatory evacuation, including the campground and River Park. Several businesses also shut down. The Sheep River has not crested yet. Also under mandatory evacuation tonight, people who live in Bragg Creek.
The damage there is astonishing, and that's where our Doug Vason spent the day.
The Elbow River thunders down on an unsuspecting Bragg Creek. The trading post reduced to rubble in the roiling water. Residents say they had little warning of the devastation to come.
When I came down at 6, there was a wall of water with big trees coming down the river. The hamlet, White Avenue, promptly flooded. We have never seen this, ever, even in the very, very worst times.
Half an hour before it hit.
No warning then?
No warning, and nobody knocking on our doors, nothing. It just was that quick.
Emergency responders direct traffic away from the danger. A fuel tank for a new gas station is uprooted by the powerful current, and gas leaks into the already murky water. A woman fears her business, a bakery near the town center, will be lost for good.
It's all in my store. I'm flooding right out.
How deep is the water?
It's up to there.
Scary?
Yeah, very. Yeah, and it's strong. It's coming down at a good force.
People in Bragg Creek are used to flash floods, and that may be part of the problem. No one thought it would get this bad.
There are a lot of homes right on the river. The wetlands have overflowed the roads. People did not take it seriously and have put themselves in danger.
We're about half a kilometer from the center of Bragg Creek. You can see the water behind me, very fierce, very high as it crosses the road. There are logs all over the place. You have to be careful when you're driving. In fact, we were just informed by Rocky View County that this area is now under mandatory evacuation. We're going to have to leave. You can see these beautiful homes close to the river completely flooded. It's likely this will be a multi-million-dollar flood.
Decided to head ship while I could, and didn't realize it was so deep at the last part of the four-way stop there, and then just caught the current as far as I could.
A chopper rescues stranded residents trapped by the water. Volunteers ride heavy machinery over washed-out roads to help others, but one needs rescuing himself.
He told me his forklift was floating down the river. I had people phoning me crying, thinking that he was gone, you know, because his forklift was there, it was running, and there was no dirt.
The entire town, over 600 people, are evacuated.
I've been out here since the mid-70s, and this is 100 times worse than the 100-year flood.
As of late afternoon, the elbow had risen almost 5 meters and had yet to crest. Doug Vason, Global News.
And MD officials now say the elbow through Bragg Creek appears to have crested just a few minutes ago. Another note, Rocky View County has set up an emergency shelter for flood victims at the Springbank Park for All Seasons. That's on Springbank Road. 2 firefighters were reportedly swept away in the river near Bragg Creek this afternoon.
We can tell you that we do know that they have been rescued. At this point, we're just awaiting confirmation on their condition. Well, lots of trouble in the neighboring community of Redwood Meadows. Water overflowing the banks of the Elbow River. RCMP stopping cars and letting them go one by one on the bridge over Highway 22. The kids' Kiwanis camp underwater, lots of sandbagging going on and rocks going up to create a berm. The golf course also shut down and several yards are flooded. And again, as we've been talking about, a lot of incredible video has come in today, and much of it from Canmore.
That's where the raging waters of Cougar Creek have washed out roads, and backyards in the town are in ruins. Our Jamie Dahl has been on top of this story from the start.
Well, this is absolutely unprecedented here in Canmore. What I'm standing in front of right now is Cougar Creek, which looks like a raging river. During the summer, there's not even water here sometimes. It's just a faint trickle, but it is alive to date, and it is wreaking havoc on this town. There are plenty of homes that have severe damage. Others are at risk of being damaged, and many homeowners, all they can do is just sit on the sidelines here and watch and wait and hope.
Right at this point, I'm starting to have a big hole in my stomach about all our stuff, and I'm just waiting to see whether that's going to get sucked down or not.
So crews are working very hard. They're trying to keep this bridge from collapsing. It is one of 3 access points into the east side of Cougar Creek. That area, that neighborhood has been completely evacuated. They're taking people on buses and they're bringing them to safety tonight.
Right now, we're trying to get everyone out of that neighborhood. People who have pets can put their pets in a carrier or on a leash and bring them with them for the evacuation, but we want to get everyone out.
The road, Trans-Canada Highway, both east and west of Canmore are shut down. We're told could be even a couple of days before those reopen. Carrot Creek, just past the park gates, is flooded over. It is spilling over the Trans-Canada. Carrot Creek, just west of the park gates tonight. Canmore is a major tourist town in Alberta. People come from all over the world. There are dozens and dozens of tourists that are stranded in hotels tonight. They could be there for days, some without power, some without fresh water because the roads in front of them have been washed away.
The power lines were going down and the creek's pretty much washed out, the roads.
We don't have power right now. No, can't even get fresh water. The water runs on pumps, so there's not even water coming up.
Also, we're being told that many cell lines are down, internet is very shoddy, so some people, if they cannot reach their loved ones, some phone lines have been set up at some of those evacuation places, and they're in for a long haul tonight and tomorrow. Let's just hope that this rain stops, but unfortunately it has just picked up again, exactly not what the people here in Canmore need. Back to you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Well, our flood coverage continues. Coming up, we're going to have the latest from Crow's Nest and the Lethbridge area.
And the floodgates have been opened at the Old Man River Dam. Downstream, thousands are on alert. Some unreal video coming out of Canmore tonight. This was posted on YouTube earlier today and shows just how powerful the floodwaters are. Many backyards have been destroyed in the town, and hundreds of people have been trapped by the road closures.
The Lethbridge region also being walloped by wet weather. Water levels there continue to rise.
Global's Mike McKinnon joins us now from Lethbridge, where, Mike, the worst, unfortunately, is still to come, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, Scott, Linda. Actually, earlier this afternoon, the level of fear was much higher. Some were worrying that bridges would be washed out, that actually kids were let out of school early to be picked up. We have been keeping an eye on the Old Man River the last few hours, and the latest expectation is that it will crest sometime around 8 o'clock this evening. State of emergency is still in effect for Lethbridge, the county of Lethbridge, as well as Fort Macleod. For many residents here, it's been a day of cleanup from last night's storms. And however, for others, they're preparing for what's still ahead.
Packing up and carrying out. In Lethbridge's Old Man River Valley, much of Thursday was spent clearing out Fort Whoop-Up and Helen Schuler Nature Center.
Right now, at our peak, we had close to 200 people here.
The low-lying areas would be the first hit if the Old Man River spills its banks. Hundreds of artifacts and exhibits being removed to avoid having to replace the irreplaceable. The floodgates opened Thursday afternoon, all 5 at the Old Man River Dam. Alberta Environment says it hasn't happened since 2005, when parts of Lethbridge looked like this.
Everything that the river can hold basically is being let go at the dam at this point. Of the Old Man Dam, and what our objective here is just to make sure we monitor and we're able to control where the access is for the public and that people don't put themselves in an area of danger.
Meaning all roads to the river valley blocked off, residents of Lower Paradise Canyon being evacuated. As for the county of Lethbridge, many remain on alert while still cleaning up rural properties.
Pretty scary, actually. You can see we had trees go down, and we actually had a power pole in one of the corrals that got hit by lightning, and so yeah, there was a power line hanging down in the corral. Thankfully the power was off.
The same for some businesses. Employees starting their day wading through the water. To them, it's nothing new.
This is the 3rd time since the flood or the big rainfall in 2005 that our shop has been, and Frank's has been flooded out.
While that water continues to drain, all eyes remain on the Old Man River, which could hit its highest level in years.
And as for residents who are evacuated at this hour, you're encouraged, if you're around the city of Lethbridge, to go to the Fritz 6 Senior Center. If you're a little bit closer to Fort Macleod, you're asked to go to the community hall there on 25th Street. And we'll keep watching as the Old Man River swells this evening.
And we have breaking news now. The city of Calgary is now saying between 75,000 and 100,000 people may have to leave their homes over the next several days because of this flooding. The city says the evacuations will be done in stages. Bowness and Sunnyside are now just being added to the list of evacuees. We will bring you more on this throughout the news hour tonight. Once again, as many as 100,000 people are going to be forced from their homes. And the problems continue as well as you head across the BC border. Heavy machinery is being used to clear roads covered in mud in and around the resort town of Fairmont. A lot of Calgarians spend time there. Residents there are rushing to sandbag the area. Several areas of the Kootenays are also flooded, and many river campgrounds are underwater and already evacuated.
Well, we can't tell you strongly enough how important it is to stay away from the flooded areas. Several major highways are closed indefinitely, and you need to check before you head anywhere. Here are some of the major road closures. Highway 1, the Trans-Canada, shut down in several spots, including through Canmore, and because of mudslides at Golden. The 1A also closed west of Calgary through Exshaw and the Bow Valley Parkway. Also, Highway 40 shut down completely off the Trans-Canada into Kananaskis country. Also, Highway 22 in several areas, and Highway 93 west of Castle Mountain. Again, you must check on road conditions and closures because they are changing by the minute.
And the rain that is causing all of this came down hard and fast, and unfortunately more is on the way. Paul Dunphy joins us, and do you have some numbers as to how much rain we've received?
Yeah, I have a few numbers for you. It looks like the heaviest stuff, no surprise, was to the west of the city of Calgary, and to the south as well. Livingstone to the southwest, 150 millimeters there. The Canmore area, 126. Banff coming in at about 36 millimeters. The Nordegg area, 101. The city of Calgary, and these are all up until 3 o'clock this afternoon. City of Calgary, 38 millimeters. Now, there are still warnings in effect, rainfall warnings in effect west of the city of Calgary, and across that region we expect to see another 30 to 60 millimeters of rain. Here's a view of downtown Calgary from our live camera in the Calgary Herald building right now. We are 16. We're partly cloudy. We have had some showers in the last little while. This is the area under the rainfall warning once again. We'll just zoom in a little closer to give you more detail on which areas are under the warning. Obviously, Banff, Canmore, but also Cochrane, Carstairs, Airdrie, up through the Old Sundre area, Caroline, Rocky Mountain House as well. Those areas, as I said, could see another 30 to 60 millimeters of rain. This is all because of a stalled low pressure center. It's stuck basically right here. The flow around this is, of course, counterclockwise, and that's drawing the moisture in off the Pacific and pushing it uphill toward the foothills and the mountains. That's what we call orographic lift. That makes the air that much more unstable and squeezes out much more rain. Now, we expect the rain is going to continue pretty much unabated to the west of us through the overnight. We'll get some breaks here in Calgary, but it's going to be continuing to be heavy along the foothills and the mountains off to the west with those heavy amounts that we talked about. But Calgary will be getting a little bit of rain and an occasional thunderstorm as well. Do have some thunderstorms up to the north and to the northeast of us, as well as one that just went through about 45 minutes ago and is out around the Cochrane area right now. Now, this is the latest model run on the precipitation amounts that we expect, and it's down from what we saw an hour ago, at least for the city of Calgary. We expect by this time tomorrow afternoon to have only picked up about another millimeter of rain, while about another 22 is on the way for Canmore, and unfortunately 19 for the Banff area.
Our reporter Jill Croteau is continuing to monitor the crisis situation in High River tonight. We'll return there live just ahead.
Also, our Jamie Dahl has been in the thick of our flood coverage in the Canmore area. Just how wild it got, that's coming up. Our coverage continuing this evening. We're going to go back to Gord on the banks of the Elbow.
And Gord, the city has just announced as many as 100,000 people may be forced from their homes over the next several days here because of the flooding.
That's incredible, Linda. Yes, the numbers keep growing. Initially, it was 6 districts. Now it's been expanded. Let me give you the list again to show you, folks, because some new ones have been added to that list. We have the first 6, Discovery Ridge, Mission, Rideau, Stanley Park, Elbow Park, and Roxborough. Around 5, Cliff Bungalow, Earlton, and Victoria Park were added. Stampede and Inglewood unconfirmed, but we also think Bowness and Sunnyside added to that list too. So you're getting up to 100,000 Calgarians impacted now. It's unbelievable. Calgary police have been called in from all districts throughout the city to fan out and knock on doors to make sure people are safe. They've been joined by search and rescue teams we've seen down here as well in the Safeway parking lot I'm in. And believe it or not, the truck that just rolled in a second ago, this is the TAC team, is also been pulled in today to try and help out. So they had the big truck there helping out. So it's unbelievable. They're getting the word out as best they can because, folks, we need to be prepared for what's coming. At 5 o'clock, Reed Feist talked to one family who lives along the Bow, a guy saying he's going to stay and try and contain the house from there. Well, he also spent some time talking with somebody just behind me here as they sandbag their home and hope for the best.
We are monitoring water levels here along the Elbow River, and in the last hour or so the water level has increased. You could kind of see some of the grass here along the Elbow River. Now it's completely submerged. Mind you, it is not as bad as 2005 yet. At 2005 levels, the water was all the way up to the top of these stairs. The homeowner, he moved in just after 2005. Thankfully then he didn't have any flooding, and he is going to stick this flood out, he says, to make sure the sump pumps work in his home.
I'll be manning the fort, making sure the sump pumps are going okay, and if anything needs to be done, get the boys over here and get it done.
Now again, we expect river levels to rise again between 3 and 5 this morning. The water levels could increase. The mandatory evacuation order does remain in place for these 6 communities along the Elbow River. There are evacuation centers set up at the Acadia Recreation Center and also the Southland Leisure Center. If you do not have friends or family to stay with, city officials say right now you should make plans for at least 24 to 72 hours here as the water levels continue to rise. Back to you.